No, this is I was glad to see you on here. Come by there and talk to you later. See you, Jim. Thanks.
Okay, I think we're finally ready to start again. Thank you for your patience, and we regret the delay.
The clock isn't on.
Okay, we're ready to go. We have a brief statement. Pursuant to the Smyth County Continuity of Government Ordinance, Roscoe Call will be attending this meeting electronically, which will provide the board with a quorum for tonight's meeting. So, welcome Roscoe, and welcome other members of the board and those in attendance here and online. We will call the meeting to order.
I call to order the Planning Commission for the purpose of this joint public hearing.
The adoption of the agenda.
Okay, so at this point, reading the rules.
Are we going to waive the rules?
Well, that would be up.
Yeah. Lori, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. Madam Chairman, I make a motion to waive the reading of the rules.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this was unanimous with Lori Hester-Teal, Judy Wyatt, Mike Sturgill, and Roscoe Call.
Okay, and so at this point, I'd like to read the advertisement that was placed in the paper for tonight's joint public hearing. The Smyth County Board of Supervisors and the Smyth County Planning Commission will conduct a joint public hearing on Thursday, November 19th at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter. Glad to put that in. As an application may be heard in the Smyth County Office Building 121 back in Circle, Marion, Virginia, to consider the following application for the zoning ordinance of Smyth County, Virginia. An application from Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church for a special use permit for a group care facility. The property is located at 665 Rocky Hollow Road, Atkins, Virginia. It's identified by tax map numbers 49D-1-10 and 49D-1-11 and is zoned agricultural rural. At this public hearing, subject to the rules of procedure of the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission of Smyth County, Virginia, any person may appear and state his or her views thereon. Copies of the applications along with their maps, drawings are on file in the Office of the County Administrator of Smyth County. Copies are also maintained by the County Zoning Administrator at the address given above and may be viewed during regular business hours, Monday through Friday. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, persons requiring special assistance to attend or participate in this hearing should contact Clay Williams, ADA Coordinator at 276-706-8315 at least 48 hours prior to the hearing. Done by the order of the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, Sean Udd, County Administrator, and Joel Pugh, Chairman of the Planning Commission. So at this point, I'd like to give you a little background information on tonight's application. Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church is negotiating to purchase 665 Rocky Hollow Road in Atkins. They're interested in establishing a group care facility, and it's required by our ordinance they've applied for a special use permit. In accordance with State Code 15.2-2204, notice of this hearing was advertised in the Smyth County News on November 7th and 14th. In addition, notification was sent to each of the adjoining property owners, and an affidavit to that effect is on file. I received a number of letters in response to this application, and at this point, I would like to read those into public record. The first is dated November 13th, 2020, is addressed to me, and it reads, "Our letter is in reference to the proposed rezoning of property located at 665 Rocky Hollow Road, Atkins, Virginia, from the present agricultural rural to a special use permit for a group care facility. We are strongly opposed to granting this proposed zoning change. Rocky Hollow Road is already a highly traveled, narrow, and dangerous in spots rural road. It is our opinion this road will not support the increased traffic a group care facility would generate. We also question the definition of group care facility. This is a broad term that should be defined. Are we talking about a boys/girls home, a home for battered women, a halfway house for drug addiction, or recently released prisoners? We would like to know exactly what this property is to be used for. Any sort of group care facility is going to need professional counselors around the clock. If it is to be a nursing home facility, then doctors and nurses should be on staff 24/7. Who's going to prepare meals, maintenance, housekeeping, health care? Boys' Homes that was on Mitchell Valley Road closed years ago because they couldn't keep reliable house parents. It is our understanding that Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church intends to run this facility with volunteer help, that they have that many professional care providers that are willing to give the time necessary to care for the people who stay there. And what about the lack of town water and sewer lines that do not run that far up Rocky Hollow Road? We know our neighbors, and we will all look out for each other. A group care facility opens up our neighborhood to lots of mischief, and who knows what else. There are so many unanswered questions concerning this proposal that we cannot support an approval at this time. Our opinion is for Freedom Tabernacle Church to build their proposed facility near the church. The house at 665 Rocky Hollow Road is in such poor condition it's going to take a lot of money to make repairs and bring everything up to code. Why not take this money and start from scratch and make a group care facility exactly as you want, near the church and near the people who are volunteering their time to manage it? And that is signed by Diane and Jay Roselle at 642 Rocky Hollow Road. The next letter says, Dear Sirs, I am writing this in response to the letter I received concerning the application for Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church for a special use permit. As an adjoining property owner, will there be any additional guidelines that I will be required to follow? Also, will there be limits to the number of families, number of children per family, or certain guidelines that are to be followed by Freedom Tabernacle? Will they also provide additional supervision for the families? Additional traffic on this narrow road will make driving more difficult. I do understand this is for the good of those who are less fortunate, but perhaps not the best location. And that is signed by Brian Kress at 654 Rocky Hollow Road. Mr. Williams, I live at 552 Rocky Hollow Road, Atkins, Virginia, 24311. My concern is the house Reverend Mike Sage is trying to buy for a home for family and boys. Will there be limits on the number of families and the number of children per family, or certain guidelines that asked by Freedom Tabernacle? Additional driving on the narrow road will make driving more difficult. I understand that this is for the good, but those who are less fortunate, but perhaps not the best location. And that is signed by Brenda Breedlove at 552 Rocky Hollow Road. Flag Williams, regarding house number 665 Rocky Hollow Road, Atkins, I am concerned about my husband George and myself regarding our health issues. If this property is permitted to be occupied by a large group of people, will this be detrimental to our health? I have many allergies, asthma, and a heart condition which do not respond well to cigarette smoke or exhaust fumes. My husband also has a heart condition. As we live within 60 feet of this house, we would suffer from such pollution. The sewer smell was very bad from the first owners, and we were unable to sit outside. I would encourage the new owners to build elsewhere, as those families deserve a better living environment. The houses are close on both sides, and activities would be limited. I hope the church will relocate and secure a better future for those families. And that is signed by Susan Ratcliffe, 669 Rocky Hollow Road. And the last letter I received, my name is Wendy Ratcliffe, and I am writing to express my concerns for the property located on Rocky Hollow Road being turned into some type of group home. First, our entire community was never approached or contacted in any way offering a proposed plan for the property. We have only had to hear from outsiders as to what is coming and read an article in the local newspaper. My family owns a residence and property within about 300 feet from this property, so we have concerns for the future unknowns. We have livestock and honeybees located within 50 feet of the property. Who would be responsible for any accidents that would happen to occur? We also have several elderly widows in the community that would not feel safe in some situations that arise with this type of environment. I feel that this type of property would only decrease the value of all the surrounding properties in the community. Lastly, my father and mother-in-law live directly next door. We have concerns with the septic system that's located on the property. The property was a 8-bed nursing home facility. The sewage ran directly into the yard, making it unbearable to even go outside from the smell. If this proposal is passed, the septic system needs to be researched in depth as to why we had these problems. I would like to emphasize that we have nothing against the church or its members. We are just truly concerned as a community. Therefore, I'm opposed to this proposition. And that's signed by Wendy Ratcliffe, 697 Rocky Hollow Road. In conclusion, and while considering this case, I would like to call attention to Section 3-2.2 CC, which allows group care facilities in the AR district by issuance of a special use permit, and Article 6, which contains the provisions for special use permit. I'd also like to note that the 2013 comprehensive plan identifies this property as rural residential on the future land use map. That's all I have this evening. At this point, I'd like to turn the podium over to Reverend Sage, who is here representing the church tonight. I'm sure he would like to address you about his proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you all for letting us be here tonight. Gene Pierce is with us, Jay Overbay, and you'll meet Deborah Parks here shortly. Jeannie here has been with us ever since the beginning of the ministry there. I'm going to try my best to be brief. You have a little packet here, so I won't insult your intelligence by just reading it again verbatim, but let me just scratch the surface here. Since 1975, we've had the privilege of ministering to our local youth, opening in September of '75. That's just year before last, I think. Time flies, doesn't it? Providing services to the youth of our county. Fortunately, we've been able to provide these services without any cost to our local families. That takes a lot of people working in a lot of ways to do that. But we've had Camp Freedom providing summer camp, winter camp, specialty camps, day camps, such as our very popular E-camps. E-camp offered as a daily camp outreach for grades K through 8, all day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've done that every summer for a while, with the exception of this last summer, 2020, and this COVID knocked us out of it. We weren't able. For the first time since 1975, there wasn't any children on the grounds of Camp Freedom. That certainly saddens my soul, I can tell you that. But partnering with Smyth County Schools, they provided hot breakfast and hot lunch every day, education enrichment. It's a real blessing to see many of the families utilize that. We usually average at least 125, 130 kids every day. Also for community youth, it's just not, our church is just not for our church, it's for everybody in the county. It's typical for Little League teams, AAU teams, traveling softball youth teams, and even Marion Senior High School has used facilities there at Camp Freedom quite often, as they do even now. So in addition to Camp Freedom, we've operated Freedom House, what we're calling this ministry, for a good while. It's incorporated youth services as well. And this arm of Camp Freedom, we've got our at-need food pantry, Christian counseling, and also is an authorized therapeutic foster care home. Now, we expanded our services at Freedom House about 3 years ago to include Hadassah House. This is where young women coming out of jail or homeless or struggling with addictions are housed. We don't offer any professional work. It's just a loving shelter, and we help them the best we can through the drug court and various things. So I'm sharing all this information as ample evidence that we worked the past 45 years to assist our families here in Smyth County in every way and any way we can. And during these years, we've maintained a very favorable relationship with our neighbors, I believe. Honestly, I cannot recall a single complaint from any of our neighbors. As a matter of fact, Pratt's built a beautiful home right adjoining our church property, so I think that's a testimony how we get along with our neighbors. I feel confident they would all agree with me wholeheartedly. And now expanding services to Rocky Hollow Road, that would only, to all the good residents up there, I feel like that would only strengthen our intention and dedication of keeping our reputation intact. I assure the neighbors along Rocky Hollow Road that we'll keep the physical property in proper shape under diligent care. We have had a lot of contractors, builders visit the property with me. We've had social services there, a lot of social workers, briefing them on the program that we're working on. And we all have decided that the house it looks ugly, and yeah, there's a lot of money probably being spent. Probably initial investment just for the roof. It's got to be repaired and replaced. Best estimate on that's about $25,000. All the flooring has to be replaced. And probably the heat system, we've looked at all of that. So I'll say we think we can really improve the property by about $75,000 investment, and we're willing to do that. I understand when build a house on your own property, but the cost that we incur on bringing this house, it's almost 5,000 square feet, with another 1,500 square feet in the basement. This house is structurally sound. It's just been neglected for a while. You'll find in your packets our examination of the sewer system. We've been in contact with Smyth County Health Department. We've got the drawings on the septic, and I'm concerned about that as well. But be assured, your neighbors, if we come up there, that the sewer system will not be giving you problems. Obviously, it's according to the testimony prior. The residents, the children, you've got in your packet, and it's Family First. You've also got in your packet the bill that the General Assembly allowed us to have a church-operated children's home. Let me just address that real quickly. We were going to start a traditional church home for kids back in 1985 to 88, right in that. In Virginia, I got to be real brief here. Virginia changed their child care laws in 1987, eliminating church licensure and going basically to a foster care setup with juvie centers and things like that. Now, without going into a lot of detail, what that bill did was allow us to operate as a church, but it did not immune us from any type of licensure requirements or state oversight. I mean, you cannot operate independently from the state of Virginia child care services anymore. So all it did was give us, the opportunity to do it as a church. So I don't have, if you have any questions about this program, it's evolving. Ms. Parks and myself have a conference call with the licensure people in Richmond tomorrow at 2:30. She may give you just a little bit more information on that. But the residents, the children, and or the mothers that may live there is a maximum of 8. So the traffic situation, you're not talking a lot of people. When all the social workers were up there with us the other day, it stated better for high quality than quantity. There probably most of the time there won't even be 8 residents living there, more like 3, 4, 5. So, you shouldn't have a humongous at all change in traffic. They will be under 24-hour supervision. The director and house parents will be in the house constantly. Security will be top priority. We plan to have a very good and pleasant, we plan to be a very good and pleasant neighbor who will enhance an already peaceful and desirable neighborhood. Freedom House will be a licensed master's level child care facility. Deborah Parks, she has her master's in social work, or LCSW as it's said there. She's been our liaison between us and the Virginia Department of Licensing of Children's Programs for the state of Virginia. Deborah's been deeply involved with the Ministry of Freedom House since 1988. She's often finished her needed education to direct this timely outreach ministry, and she's actively working to make this new extension of Freedom House a reality. And will proceed with the licensing and directorship of this much-needed work in our region, seeking to improve the lives of her families who are at such a high risk. We cannot operate without the licensure and oversight of the Virginia Licensing Board, which I'm confident, if memory serves me well, they will be inspecting us at least 2 times a year. And then, of course, our local DSS will be with the children, working with the children as well. So therefore, our hopes are that our Smyth County officials, our potential neighbors along Rocky Hollow Road, and all of our fellow citizens in Smyth County and surrounding areas know and have confidence that we are a ministry dedicated to the assistance of our most vulnerable residents, while at the same time upholding the high standards of love and respect for our entire community, including the dear Ratcliffes that I've known basically all my life. And I want everybody to know up at Rocky Hollow, should this become a reality, we will do our dead level best to improve that property, maintain that property, and make sure that we will be a very good neighbor. You can come over in the backyard and eat hamburgers anytime. And if you have any problems, all you got to do is talk to us. So at this time, I introduce to you Ms. Deborah Parks, and I conclude my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, committee, and the community. I'm Deborah Parks, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work in private practice here in Smyth County, and I live in Chilhowie. I have been a part of Freedom Tabernacle Ministries since the later 1980s, helping to provide any type of assistance or service, whatever needed to be put together to help those in our community that may be less fortunate or may need additional assistance. This children's home is something that has been in the works for a little over 30 years. Something that Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church, Freedom Tabernacle Ministries has always wanted to bring to the forefront, provide for this area. We do have the meeting tomorrow. This is with our district office in Abingdon, actually. Our consultants there with the Department of Social Services. We have that meeting tomorrow, and the reason that we're going to have that meeting is to gather some statistical data so that we know more about what the actual need, the ages of the children that actually need placements, and these will be foster placements. We're hoping once we apply for the license and we obtain the license that we may be able to bring a parent in, maybe that they're facing homelessness or there's other abuse, neglect within the family, and be able to keep those family units together. This is part of the Family Cares Act, and inside your package you'll find just a little insert here that says the vision for the Family First Care Act is to keep children safe, strengthen families, and reduce the need for foster care whenever it's safe to do so. And I don't know that we will actually be able to be a part of prevention, but we definitely will be a part of providing foster care. If we are allowed to bring a parent in. We will have professionals that will be working with these families. And I'm just going to say probably mostly mothers, to help them in whatever capacity they need. Like I said, if it's abuse or neglect, or even if there is some drug issues. Won't be able to bring anyone in that has current drug use. Those individuals or adults will be outsourced to the community until they are able to maintain sobriety before they can actually begin to participate again with the children that may be placed in the home. Our current licensure for the state of Virginia only allows for 8 residents. At this time, we do not know the exact age of the individuals or children that might be placed. Department of Social Services, I've been in contact with Helen Holman with Smyth County Department of Social Services. Her and Angela Price also attended whenever we went and looked at the house. And one of the things that they said was really needed was a place where they could bring in sibling groups. A lot of times if you have 4 or 5 children that are actually in a family, they have to split them up. Some of the younger children may go in one home. You may have a little bit older children that may go in another home. If you have teenagers, they may go in another home. And part of this is to try to keep those families together, keep them intact. What the state of Virginia really wants to do is they want to prevent the families from actually coming into care. So that's a whole nother program that could be developed, but it still entails a lot of professionals that would have contact with these families. One of the things that I would like to see, if we are able to do this and get licensed through the state of Virginia, is to be able to follow these families after they leave from Freedom House and help support them in the community once they go. That is going, as far as our licensure, we have to have people who are educated, master's level educated. Everyone that will be working there has to be trained. They have to pass background checks. I think for me, we're going to have a love for the kids and for the families to be able to be a part of this and be able to work in this capacity. Have a lot of professionals that are interested in this. I have put together a committee, and that involves Department of Social Services, supervisors from DePaul Community Services, also from probation, juvenile probation. When our families are unstable and they're unable to maintain, usually there's more than just one problem that's going on in that family, and it affects the entire family. The younger children may be traumatized. Your teenagers may be getting into the same similar behaviors if the parents are unable to parent. So we're going to have a wide range of services and resources. We do have to be licensed through the state of Virginia. There's a lot of requirements, as a matter of fact, for licensure, just the basics. There's about this many pages that we have to meet to be able to have the home and maintain the home. Plus there's going to be oversight from the Virginia Department of Licensing. They will be in there probably more often than just a couple times a year, especially in the beginning, for the license, and they will be there at least twice a year for inspection and to go over all of our paperwork and even financial documents, all of that stuff. and make sure that we are maintaining what we need to maintain for the safety and benefit of those that we are actually serving. And again, this project is not one that has just come up. This is something that has been in the works for a number of years. And Freedom Tabernacle Baptist Church and Freedom Tabernacle Ministries is just now getting in a position financially and otherwise, with the assistance of people within our church that can provide this. Volunteers will not be, there will be no volunteers other than if we have our staff who has to be educated and also trained, then we can bring in volunteers to assist them, but we cannot bring in just volunteers to run this. Virginia state licensing will not allow us to do that. So your consideration for this home in Smyth County on Rocky Hollow Road would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
How many paid staff do you have at the location that this is approved?
What we're planning to do is possibly have an on-site director who will live there and/or will be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Plus, depending on what we provide, we're going to have trained house parents, whether we decide to go with couples or individuals that will staff this around the clock on 8-hour shifts. 8-hour shifts every day of the week, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There will always be staff on site to oversee what is going on there at the home.
And these will all be paid staff?
Yes, these will all be paid staff. And yes, we're going to have a sizable budget. But we also have funding sources through the Family Affairs Act as well as Department of Justice and other sources that we can actually bill for services and different things depending on what we put in place, which is going to bring in revenue for the home. And we want that to be sustainable over time. We don't want this to be where our funds are coming in, we don't know where they're coming from, we don't know whether we're going to have enough to meet the budget. We want to make sure that when we start this, that it is sustainable, that we are going to meet the need, and we are going to get referrals and or have residents there, and that we can actually meet their need. There is a big need in Smyth County. I think a lot of that has come from drug abuse, and that entails a lot. Like I said, a lot of times trauma for the younger children. Also, your adolescent teenagers who maybe begin to act out, trouble at school, getting into trouble, that sort of thing. So we're going to have a wide range of things and outsource to the community as well, to other professionals that might be able to meet those needs.
Can I ask a question? You say there's just going to be a limit of 8. Say a mother comes in and has 3 children that you would have there. Will that be considered 4, or will that group be considered 1?
Now that I'm not certain of, depending on our square footage and what Department of Licensing will allow us. At this point, until we have a plan, we have to do an application. It has to have the ages that we are going to accept. We have to have what our program is going to be like. We have to have all of our policies written up. It's a lot to be able to, that we have to submit to licensing, and they have to approve before before we can even start this.
And I want to interject something there. It has to be counted as 4 because that would go back to the health department and sewer. You can only have 8 people living there no matter what. And that's why I just said we discussed it with some social workers today, quality instead of quantity. So I said possibly there won't be 4, 5, or 6 there at a time. You got to keep the numbers down should that scenario, but not hypothetical, that's probably going to be reality. Mother will have to. We got to kind of plan ahead for that type of.
So the 8 would be counting staff too?
No, it doesn't count, that 8 is the residents.
Okay.
Big number, 10 to 12. By the time you add the 8.
Well, it should be more than 2 staff members there, 10 people up there at a time, Joel, should be about, that's the top end. But again, we've learned through the years, sometimes it's a whole lot better to have fewer effective, because the more numbers you get, there again, it's all evolving. And I don't know all the answers, but we do the best we can.
Can y'all elaborate a little bit on the timeline, like reading some of this on just like some of the budget, is there a timeline that you have to have it done by a certain time, or is there a premise?
Well, as a matter of fact, I got a call from Todd Pillion here later tonight. He's waiting on a call from him. We would like to have this licensure pretty much secured, if possible, by the end, 1st of July. And the reason Todd's talking to him, we're starting to try to see about an extension of a particular deadline. Unless you want, that's it.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Ask questions.
Joint hearing, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
You may want to just check in with him and say.
Okay, Lori, do you have some questions?
Actually, I just have one question. I was noticing here on the legislation that Senator Carrico passed in 2018. It specifies the original location. Is that going to have to be changed, or does that affect this?
I don't think it affects, that's another discussion for Mr. Pillion. As you know, Bill's not there anymore.
Right.
And I text Mr. Pillion, and he's in a meeting. He told me quick he got out. As quick as I leave, I'm going to call him on the phone. But my feeling is that doesn't matter about location. We'll own it. It'll be in the church name.
Right. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like a small technicality somebody could call you out on, and I didn't know if anybody had noticed that, so I just wanted to point it out.
We're addressing that later tonight.
Perfect.
This thing has been complicated, and like I said, if this works, it could save so much money, and it's not just a financial thing. We've got the same square footage up there, and with building materials and cost right now, it's crazy.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to point that out, just in case.
Okay. We're in negotiations, so I can't say anything about that. But
Sure.
hopefully and prayerfully this will work out, and I again assure the residents up there. I didn't think, we don't know. We talked to anybody yet because this is not an actual done deal. We just got to count the cost and make sure we can build the tower. So we're covering a lot of bases here, preliminary wise. So when we do launch this thing, it'll be okay. That's why this meeting, invites all the residents up there to express their concerns, which I understand. I have the same concerns too. But we've been around for 45 years in history, and I assure them one thing: we'll do our dead level best and utmost diligence to enhance your neighborhood and be a really good neighbor to you, and wouldn't cause any stress or strain. I don't think we'll have the numbers, on the traffic issue either. Sewer and all that, we will address that and do our best to take care of all those issues and be a good asset to the community.
I would just like to say, Pastor Sage, that in the community over the years, I have seen the work that your ministry has done. And anything that I've seen you do has been done top-notch in a real service to the community. And I just am very impressed with all the preliminary thought that's gone into formulating this, and it seems like nothing has been left out. And there certainly is a need in this community for these children and for these families. We are in crisis in many of these areas. And we know that resources are limited, and it's nice to see a church be willing to take on that type of financial commitment and service. So I think it's a good project.
I appreciate your kind words. We just throw it all back in. Our treasurer, and the assistant treasurer's not here, but they know the old preacher man don't get a whole lot of money out of Kitty. It's a joy to put it back in.
Yeah.
We try to help people regardless. Mr. Sturgill there knows he spent his life helping kids and blessing kids. Sadly, a lot of people just don't know what goes on out here. It's
true.
It gets frustrating sometimes, I'll be honest, though. You do all you can to help some of them, and they just go right back where they come from. If you can just help one or two along, it's worth it.
Well, it's certainly a Christ-like action, that's for sure, which we need more of.
So at this point, I think you got a sign-up sheet. There's
I
a number
do.
of other folks that came tonight that
Yes.
I think want to address the board and planning commission, so
We will go.
You wanna call them
We
up
will
and
start
see?
from there.
Thank you.
Mr. George Ratcliffe? Welcome, Mr. Ratcliffe, and if you would state your name and your address, please. Your address, your name and address.
669 Rocky Hollow Road, Atkins, Virginia.
Thank you.
I live in 50 foot of this house. I want to ask Mike a couple of questions, if I'm permitted.
Mhm.
We've heard that the age group of these kids are from 13 to 18. Is there any truth to that?
Well, what is the age of foster kids? Some of them are babies, but, any, up to 18, social services can try to place a child. I'm concerned, George, for, when I drove my bus for 35 years, 14, 15, 16 year olds, they're not adoptable anymore. They're not desirable for some foster parents. So, the kids could go up to a maximum of 17.
Well,
They can just walk out the door.
everything you all said
Another legally themselves.
is great.
Well,
All the dots
Just walk out
crossed,
the door.
all the T's crossed, it all sounds great. But the location where you're trying to put it stinks. It's right in the middle of homes. The road to get in and out of there, it's awful. You have to pull off the side of the road at times to let a car pass. You meet a school bus, you're lucky. You hold your breath as you ease around it. That road does not need any more traffic than what's on it. I think the location, I think you could do
excuse me,
much better
Mr. Ratcliffe,
somewhere else.
with all respect, do you mind to address us?
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
I think the location is what we're more concerned with. It is not a good location. The house is in bad shape. The sewer system stinks. There is a lot of work needs to be done. I don't think that this location is the best location for a home like this. This home sounds great, but not where they're wanting to put it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Any questions? No, I hear you loud and clear, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Ratliff. Next, we have Mike Ratliff.
My name is Michael Ratcliffe. I live at 669 Rocky Hollow Road. I came here opposing the property that is going to be commercialized for a group facility. After hearing Mike Sages talk about it, it's unfortunate that we have to come here to hear about it. Myself or no other neighbor in the community were not contacted in any way or told of these plans being proposed. Only found out from a newspaper article and a letter sent to 4 families that joined the property. A lot of this opposed could have been avoided if they came to the door and knocked, sent us a letter, phone call, and said, hey, this is the plans. You know, now we're here, having to hear it here. I have livestock and honeybees within 50 feet of this property. I was worried about being located this close to this type of house with small children, especially I have goats, I have honeybees. Goats can be dangerous, and so can honeybees if you're allergic to it. I did have a concern about that. I have a concern about convicted felons or gang members coming in. These kids come from inner cities, from Richmond and Norfolk. They come in, MS-13 members, being in a community this small. I do have concerns about that. Me and my brother, we work for the Department of Corrections. Any convicted felon that moves in there, we have to be so many feet from them for so many months. I am concerned about that. I know that you have to abide by state law. We have to be so many feet. I think it's 150 foot from them. Our parents live within 50 foot of the house. Like I said, I came here opposing, but after hearing some of the stuff, it's a good thing. I don't know if it's in the right location or not for this. When it was a nursing home with 8 people there, the sewage did leak into the yard, and you could not stand to be in the backyard of my parents' house for the sewage smell. I would like to have this addressed if they do purchase it. Just a simple fact. I like to bring it out now that there is something wrong with sewage before the church buys the land. They know that extra expense is there. Like I said, I came here to oppose. Undecided now. I think there's a good thing that you're trying to do. I just wish we knew more information before we walked into this room about it, instead of reading it in a newspaper or having to hear it here. We have a lot of elderly single females, widows that lives on the street. I'm sure that they are going to be scared if it is gang members living there or young teenagers running around. And if this is proposed, I'd like to see a privacy fence put up around the property. And I thank you for your time. Thanks for everything. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you for expressing your concerns. Next, we have Scott Ratcliffe.
Hello, I'm Scott Ratcliffe. My address is 260 Perry Lane. I'm George Ratcliffe's son. I grew up in the house at 669. My concern, will this be more local children, or will they be placed throughout
Western region.
Western
The
region.
Western region of Virginia.
And a lot of questions already been addressed, just the extra traffic and noise, and what's the age limit. If this would go through the zoning committee in 15, 20 years down the road, you know, the fundings fall through or something would happen, they decide not to have this home anymore, do something else like a drug rehab or a halfway house, be able to go through with this residence. There is a great need to help the misfortunate, but I believe this house is in such poor shape, I believe it'd be in the best interest to locate it somewhere else. And if you do put it in, can you get some good football players, you know?
Thank you, Mr. Ratcliffe. Next is Rich Powell.
I have a question.
Okay.
I was just curious if the packages that they gave y'all, we could see those packages that the church handed out. We've got no information on it at all. My name is Michael Burton. I live in Wellington.
You know, I would have gladly come house to house, but I knew this meeting was coming, had to come, and I figured, you know, whether we had addressed it then or now, if this meeting would have had to been. I do apologize, but I just have to be honest, I didn't even think about coming door to door. I did speak with George up there one morning, when we were all up there. But, you know, I could have probably addressed a lot of these issues how to come to your house. I just didn't think about it, to be honest with you, and I apologize for that. Certainly wasn't no disrespect intended, I can assure you that.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
do you realize that 8 beds only covers half that house?
Well,
There's 2 septic systems to that house.
yeah,
It's divided in half.
yeah.
One's for 8 beds, the other, we don't know. There was 6 people lived in it. Now, if you can add 6 and 8, that's 14.
Well, we got the information on the septic system. We have to, we can put in, we'll do whatever it is to make it, you know, proper, whatever that takes. You know, I think all I can say right now is this location is awfully good for us. It's 10 minutes from our main site. And, we can really put some initial investment in it and be a whole lot better off. The time and treasure that it would take to build a new 5,500 square feet. This came into our attention. It is suppressed, I know that. But like I said, we've had people go all over it, as you know, professional people that really know building. And I think, it can be brought up to an attractive looking place. And by the time we get done with it this spring, we won't know it, I promise you that. It'll be nice. And we could consider some privacy, some Senegal, bring comfort to some of the neighbors. Of course, there's a good bit of space on the way back in behind there. Well, there again, we just want the opportunity to push it through. We've got to get started on this licensure. We do have a little bit of time constraint on that now. We've got to be moving on. So. And I know you're taking a risk on just trusting me, but like I said, we've been here a long time. And we'll do our best and bend over backwards to be an asset up there instead of a liability. So I hope the planning commission will take that under consideration and give us a shot. Now, if we ever get out of funding or something happens, they'll have to answer that question. I thought that was an interesting question. But as far as we're concerned, we're not going to, we've had it. We lightly minister to drug addicts and people like that in a DASA house, and we've sheltered them in the shelter for years now. And we've not had any problem with our immediate neighbors because we try to keep oversight over that. But we have absolutely no, nor ever will have any intention to move those types, no gang members, no drug addicts. We deal with that already on a small basis. I'll be honest right here publicly, it can get frustrating, but you do all you can, and they go right back. And we've almost pulled the plug on that more than once, haven't we? But we still got them out there tonight. You can come and visit them if you want to. And but that's a whole different outfit, a whole different deal.
And then this one.
Yes.
And one thing to assure the neighbors, one of the things that we will definitely have in place is audio video in the home. Not only will it be staffed, but we also will have that, as an oversight, in the home as well.
Outside and inside
We can do both, yes,
with official lighting around it.
yes, we can do that.
Well, they got that stuff's pretty inexpensive now. That stuff, if they move, it sets off the cell phones and, little Dickens and King Hardy, they'd have to be over sharp to get out of the bedroom around the house.
Yes, sir.
So,
Just a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I didn't sign up because I didn't know.
Do you want to come forward and state your name and
I've been
address?
to a meeting like this before, so. My name is Michael Burton. I live on 348 Welch Lane, which is right off of Rocky Hollow, right across the road from George, just about. Can not to distrust anybody, but I know how things are and, things change. Can the use of this property be changed without another hearing like this in the future, once this is approved?
Claire?
Yeah, I'll be happy to address that. So that's the beauty of a special use permit. It's for this use and this use only. So if approved, that would be the only use that's approved for that property. So,
Even with it as vague as a group home?
so we do have a definition for home.
It's a group care facility.
Yeah, group care facility. Group home, good point. Group home is actually a different use.
it's not like it.
So a group care facility is defined, and you're welcome to read along here, a residential facility or dwelling unit housing persons unrelated by blood, marriage, adoption, or guardianship, including congregate homes and group care homes. A congregate home is a group care facility providing accommodation and supervision to more than 5 individuals where medical care is not a major element, and including homes for orphans, foster children, veterans, the elderly, pregnant teenagers, non-resident families of hospitalized patients, mentally handicapped, or similar uses. So if approved, that's what they would be allowed to do. And it's important,
So basically almost anything for a group home?
well, any of those folks. So yeah, they could put the elderly in there, they could put veterans in there, foster children, all of that would be allowed under that definition.
But medical care and drug therapy would not be permitted.
All right, that's where I was going to go to.
Yeah, that's what I just want to make sure.
If you read the definition of medical care facility, and it's quite a bit longer, but that gets into the treatment of drugs.
We will not.
And that's not permitted.
And that's not permitted.
No.
That's not what's on the table tonight. So if down the road, they or the next owner or you or any of your neighbors propose this use, then if that's even allowed in the AR district, they would have to apply for a separate permit.
And then the last question I had was, does the use permit actually limit the number of people in the facility by what the facility can provide? Or can they, who makes the decision how many
We can
people?
put stipulations on that.
So there's going to be a number of things that dictate that. The first, as Mike mentioned, this is on a septic system or 2 septic systems. So the health department is going to have, they're going to have a cap that allows them not to go over. Their licensing will probably cap them to how many people that they can have. And then if that is a major concern, and if there is an idea of approving this and they wanted to put a condition saying that it can't exceed X number of folks, then that is a possibility in the granting of a special use permit. In other words, you can put conditions on special use permits if that helps strike a compromise. That helps.
And, you know, just the same as they are, I've got a, you know, elderly cousin there that's a widow, and my great aunt is a widow there that live within a mile of where this is gonna be. So that's why I'm here, because I'm concerned about what that is. It doesn't affect me quite as much, because I'm a little further away, but not much. And when I first moved to this area, one of the first things I heard when I moved in here was my sage. And I've heard nothing but good things about him, but I am concerned about the location.
Sure.
Because we live there.
Yeah.
And George and them live even closer. And that's the only thing I'm raising these questions for.
Right. Well, I think communication's a good thing, to be able to ask the questions and have responses, and, you know, it gives a better understanding, hopefully, so, thank you.
One more thing, can I ask Mike?
Yeah.
What is your phone number for your church?
737511 to think about their things to the phone. You can
I've tried all week to call.
We had volunteer people doing it, and then COVID hit. And we haven't had anybody there since March because of COVID now. They do check the messages though every Sunday.
Well, that's another issue, it doesn't go to voicemail.
There's something wrong there.
We are working on that. We realized it the other week. It had been working. I called the phone company, and someone on our end, and I talked to, Governor Techie guy at the church, and that's what we're looking at, what's
Sorry
going on.
about that.
Sorry about
Thank you,
that.
sir. Next, we have Dr. Charles Watson.
No, I'm scratching my name off.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that completes everyone who signed up. Is there anyone else here who would wish to speak?
I just have one question. Is the drainage adequate down there? I mean, is it a drainage problem?
Well, you've got in your package something about the drainage there, that drawing from 1999. You know, we're addressing that. We're in contact with the health department and stuff. We've had a lot of experience on septic systems. Williams can tell you. And the health department, we've got a few septic systems out there where we are. That last one is a doozy.
It's not an insurmountable obstacle.
No, not to my knowledge, when I was up there looking around at what we've seen, I think we can, with these lower numbers, and you can't have a great big number of people up there, and George is exactly right on that. And, I didn't know about the stench, until tonight. We've got the personnel and people to address that issue. We'll get on that if this goes through. We can get negotiations and can get this very reasonable, save a lot of funds, and we'll be able to address that sewer issue as best we can. We'll move them in there. Well, we can. Right? They won't allow
Yeah,
it.
and I'll expand on that once we get into the planning commission meeting. I've got some stuff to add to that, unless everyone wants to hear it.
It's a pleasure. Good.
We can go ahead and adjourn the.
Okay. Okay. So we will
Yes, so at this
adjourn.
point, I think you're going to close the public hearing. Joe will do the same. And then my understanding is you all are going to adjourn for a few minutes and then reconvene upstairs.
Yes.
In the school board meeting room.
Yes.
For the benefit of everybody here, the Board of Supervisors, their part of tonight is effectively done. So they're going to go upstairs and deal with some other agenda items. So if you're here for their meeting, I would encourage you to follow them. The planning commission, they're going to stick around. They're going to go back into their regular meeting, and they're going to take up tonight's application, and they're going to talk about it, and they're going to hopefully formulate a recommendation to send to the Board of Supervisors. So that is just a recommendation. It's not an approval or a denial tonight. That recommendation will be board at their next meeting, which is the 8th, December the 8th, same room. It too is a public meeting, unless something changes between now and then. But that's when the board will hear the planning commission's recommendation and then we'll vote on it. Okay?
Okay. Okay, so we will adjourn the public hearing. The Board of Supervisors will recess to the school board meeting room.
And I'm taking Roscoe with me.
Bosca's been awfully
luck,
quiet.
I'm not leaving, Roscoe, don't worry. We're gonna switch to another room.
Come up with recommendations. You want to hear what Stick around, it's still a public meeting. This is not a public hearing. There's a distinction.
Let's take a recess for 2 to 3 minutes for the planning commission. Everybody that's here, please stay and listen to the. Everybody need to hear about this.
Exactly, that's the whole problem.
Did you prepare for 2 hours of their life now?
And I'm surprised, just that few weeks ago, I had a
I love that. Okay.
Well, they can see Andy, you're the only one, though. He's cool. No, you're good.
I don't really think it's been used to be on the side of
Maybe wait like
Sometimes,
Yeah, he's stuck here tonight.
They need to die. There's, that's what makes it good. He was looking at big smile. He's gonna do a skull nail. He's gonna do a skull nail. He's real excited, cut it out, and facing down to April. Yeah. From Lost Valley.
We've been concerned about that septic.
I mean, just let it sit there for a while.
We have a letter pointer mounted in my house. His name's John. I named him John. And I told him, if it's supposed to be John, I told him that. So they do skull mounts.
I doubt very seriously she's sick.
No, I guarantee you that.
Yeah. But they look at you.
Yeah, you're still recording, you're good.
Them's weird. I don't know.
Let's go ahead and reconvene the planning commission side of the meeting. Appreciate y'all's patience during all this, and I just wanted to start off this section. I talked to folks out here and, ask you to stay, and I appreciate you doing so. I think it's good for y'all to hear the way we go about making this decision. I had Clegg, asked Clegg to print this off, and this is sort of the standards, it's called the general standards that we use, and then the conditions. I'm sorry, I won't have to pull this away so you can hear me. But general standards, a special use permit may be recommended provided the planning commission finds that the proposed special use meets the following standards. There are A through K. I, J, and K, they talk about mining, quarries, graveyards, junkyards, things that do not apply. The, sections A through H do apply to this. So Section A, it says, is it designed, located, and operated so as the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected? Item B, it will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. Item C, it is within the listing of items requiring a special use permit as set forth in the ordinance. Clegg, that was the case, you stated that earlier. It meets, that is checked off, correct?
Yes.
Okay. D, it conforms to all applicable provisions of this ordinance for the district in which it is to be located. E, it must have direct access on a public road which can safely and adequately handle the automobile and truck traffic generated. Okay. One thing I pointed out to the planning commission earlier, if approval is met, we can put a stipulation in there that VDOT has to sign off on the entranceways, or they have to give a recommendation that, you know, this is what needs to be done to bring it up to standards. And that's for the ingress to the property. Item F is there must be adequate safeguards to prevent soil erosion on the site and erosion and sedimentation on neighboring downhill and downstream properties during and after the development. Item G, there's a satisfactory plan and methods for sewage disposal as approved by state regulatory agencies. Again, we can stipulate, if approved, we can put in there that the health department has to be called and go through the health department regulations to make sure that what was put in place in 1998, 99, or it's 98. Well, I guess there was two, 96 and then 98. One of the sewer maps we couldn't locate. Is that correct, George? Thank you.
We couldn't find the first septic system.
So
Yolanda is looking for that. She's trying to find it. That's a difficult thing. We've been trying to find that very thing.
Mike,
John?
look under Joe Blizzard's name. He built the house. It might be owned under his name instead of Roger's. It could be there.
We looked for Blizzard out there with Yolanda the other day, and she told me she was going to keep looking, and if anybody can find it, she can. And I hope she can. But we have some people that, if this approves and goes, we can negotiate. We have some people that we'll work on that sewer and get it up to snuff. We've had quite a bit of experience with sewers over there. The new facility was built. I'm not saying we can make it perfect, but we'll have to meet those standards in order to proceed. That's my understanding. Correct?
Yeah, so, all right, let's try to address sewage if that's okay. So it's kind of a standard procedure in our office. Anytime before we issue any building permits, it's pretty much standard procedure to send everybody to the health department. If it's new construction, obviously they get a new septic system laid out. In the case of existing buildings, the county requests that the health department issue what's known as a safe, adequate, and proper. And so that's an evaluation process where they will come out and they will determine what's in the ground, and they will listen to what they are proposing, and they will determine if what's in the ground will work with what they are proposing. Now, in a perfect world, they're able to find the old permits. That makes their life much easier. They can figure out what it is and what's in the ground, and then they can listen to what he wants to do and determine if it can be approved. If they can't find a permit, it's not the end of the world. We deal with that all the time. You find somebody that knows about septic systems and has a piece of equipment, and they go out there and they find the septic tank and the distribution box and the drain lines, and then they figure out what's in the ground, and then they'll evaluate that and determine if it will work for his proposal. So at the end of the day, the health department's going to have to review what's there, determine if it will work for what he is proposing, and if not, they will approve it with conditions, which is also common. So they may put a condition on it that, hey, we've evaluated the current systems and we don't think it can be approved for more than 8 people or 10 people or whatever they determine. So there is a series of checks and balances in place that involves the health department reviewing this and making sure that it will work for this proposal.
We could address that also in the special use permit.
Sure. As another level of security, you could, if you're inclined to recommend approval, say that that is contingent upon the health department issuing a safe, adequate, and proper on the site.
The last item that we look at is item H, and it says there is suitable provision for the protection of privacy on adjoining property which is now in residential use or which may develop in residential use under the provisions of this ordinance. In this section, protection of privacy shall mean effective screening against visual intrusion. That's used a lot for junkyards or places where, you know, the visual, like to block off what's kept there. Not in this case, it may be more of a privacy fence or something of that nature. If the board, the planning commission makes a recommendation, there's conditions can be set forth under this particular code. It says and authorizing a permit for any special use provided for in this ordinance, the Board of Supervisors, after report and recommendation by the Planning Commission, may impose specific conditions on the development and use of land as necessary to assure compliance with the standards set forth in section 6.2-3. Such conditions may include, but are not limited to, the dimensional requirements for front, side, and rear yards greater than those specified elsewhere in this ordinance, screening by planting or fences or other devices, landscaping for appearance, dedication of land for street purposes, construction of turning lanes on public roads, prohibition and/or regulations of signs, requirement of additional parking spaces, and limiting hours of operation. So we as the Planning Commission take these steps, and then we can go forth and recommend any of these conditions if so chosen. I would like to ask the Planning Commission folks, I'm gonna start with Hazel. This is in her district. We'll go around this way. I'd just like y'all to kind of give a brief pros, cons, what you see, what you're thinking, and just state and if you have any other questions for Mr. Ratcliffe, Pastor Sage, if there's anything else that you want to address before we make any decisions.
Well, when I received my packet, I read over it, and I agree there is a need for this home, for the foster kids in the area, or mothers, or whatever. I mean, my first thought is the location. I wasn't keen on that. I know the people that live there. I mean, I drive that road all the time. My aunt lives on out the road. So, I did have, I was very skeptical. I did talk to Mike, and listening to you, I mean, I know there's a need, and I think that it does meet what our general standards are. I've been studying on that. The pros, there's a need. The con I have is, people in the area don't want it. But, what is to say if someone just came up and said they wanted to buy that house, and they have 8 or 9 kids, and they just move into that house. There's, a single family dwelling, and those kids are hellions. I mean, there's no stipulations, so to speak, I mean, something like that could happen, and with this being the church, and Mike Sage's very good reputation in the community, does great work with the youth, I think it would be good to do, but put stipulations on it, as far as the number of individuals in the home, and as you said, the septic system and all of that. Okay.
Just to comment on the traffic, and I don't mean to interject or interrupt, but, we'll have a van. None of those kids have a car, and the house parent or the director. So as far as traffic, all I can see is 3 vehicles. Seriously. You're going to have 2 cars, director and house parent, and then you're going to have a van. None of those kids, or if the mother comes in, I guarantee she won't have a car. And so you're looking at 3 vehicles.
Will the van be used to transport the children?
Yes,
Will you do a lot, bring them to the church for different programs and things?
Sure, at times, but they'll be in a van. They won't, what I'm saying. So I know that'll be, like she just said, I mean, if somebody buys that place, got a bunch of kids, of course, I don't know if anybody's going to buy it or not, because it's going to cost a good thing to bring it back. Anyway, that's all I was going to say. We'll do our best to get along with it. And I don't blame, if I lived up there, I'd be down here wanting to know about it too. I understand that. I understand. Somebody, come out in the paper, somebody going to do something like our side of 318 here for a hoot. I've asked some questions too. So I understand that.
Paul, turn to you.
I think communications, just like we had tonight, has been great, explained a lot of stuff. They meet specifications like that VDOT and the health department septic system, and mainly too, is having it well supervised, you know. Dealing with, you know, we need at least 2 people. You know, that's a biggie. When you put boys and girls together, and working that list, you need 2 people. But I think it's a good thing for the community, you know. So that'll work itself.
You,
My question so far is pretty well been answered. I'm okay. I agree with you.
I'll pass because my question is pretty well answered.
I think the same thing Hazel said, you rarely get to choose your neighbors. That's a pretty good neighbor. Good things, I think with the stipulation we talked about. I agree.
I guess I'll just finish it. I'll just finish up, just under total disclosure, I was one of Pastor Mike's little darlings on the bus, and I was probably one of the ones that didn't go the right way, but also George, I've known you and your family, went to school with Scott, so I've been concerned about this since George and I first talked. I sort of, when I met with George and looked at the property, and I think the biggest drawback on the whole thing was communication, just, you know, going out, because it scares people if they, and that's not unusual in this circumstance, because you hear one thing, and the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, is it going to be a halfway house? Is it going to be, you know, the things that normally scare folks. But I was hoping that things we as the planning commission could add some layers, and I talked to George about this today. We met. A special use permit can be pretty condition sensitive. You know, we can put different layers, and a lot of these layers are already placed on you by the health department. The health department says, so, you know, up to 8 that we know. We don't know exactly what the other septic, because we can't find it. But if we could put some stipulations in there, max number of folks, VDOT has to sign off on it, health department has to sign off on it, even max occupancy. I mean, if you all, if we said no more than 10 or no more than 12, if you all think, would that hinder you? I mean, do you think if there's anything written in there that would give the Ratcliffes and the neighbors some peace, I guess you'd say, that it wouldn't be over? One thing George had mentioned to me was there's 8 rooms, and if we put double bunk beds, there's 4 times 8, you know, and I don't think it's going to be anything like that.
No, licensing won't allow that.
I also think, and I talked to George about this, I think y'all got a lot of hoops to jump through. I mean, DSS, Virginia licensing, I'm just going through this tonight. I think that the peace of mind that's written into the special use permit, if adopted, that's just more layers for the neighbors to provide protection. That's basically all I had to say on it. And I guess at this juncture, we'll just see if anybody has any motions or recommendations about the special use permit.
My last days on those school buses on Rocky Hollow Road. I agree, it's not the safest road to travel. I drove a school bus down through the dirt for 3 years before I retired on my dad. Always missed y'all.
I'll make a motion to recommend the special use permit with the conditions of the VDOT entrance, meeting the proper sewage requirements and limitations of occupancy based on that.
Based on what the stipulation is in the health department, based on the 2 sewer septic permits.
One of my privacy things. That was requested by one of the people from the audience.
That's certainly, you know, in reading what we did about the conditions, you know, that is certainly screening by planting or fences or other devices, landscaping for appearance. I think that could be.
The world draws up those lots right through there, so narrow and long. That's odd as looking. Yeah.
Here's Clay.
Really? It always been that way?
Yeah, so there's.
That was before Clegg's time.
Well, there's this pesky thing called subdivision ordinance, and you gotta provide enough acreage to get a home, a well, and septic system on, and then you also have to provide access to a public road. And so quite often, that's how we'll see land developed. They'll give them just enough road frontage and enough width to get a septic system, a well, and a house on, and if they have to go a mile back, that's what they do. So that's not uncommon.
If the privacy fence, and I would agree, I would like that for Ratcliffe's, I'd like that for the neighbor, the lady below.
But certainly not all the way back to
But
General Jail.
no.
Because that's what, is that almost 4.5 acres?
Something like that.
I mean, you're talking about 4.5 acres with the two lots combined.
I agree. I mean, if there is a stipulation, I think there needs to be some sort of limitation, because that lot goes, I mean, to the top of the ridge, basically.
All the way to the top of the next street, in 100-foot street.
I have a question. He's talking about, the 4.5 acres. Is that what you're purchasing, or are you purchasing the whole 6 acres?
I didn't know it was 6 acres.
There's
looks to
2
me like
lots there.
it's-
Are they right away? Where's the second right away? Beside the house? It goes back to the last 2 acres?
I don't.
No, I think it's a 6 acre lot instead of a 4 acre lot.
I don't know.
Because if that's the case, there's a right of way next to the Powell property that's going back to that back 2 acres.
I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember, we looked at the tax tickets when he was in the office, and I thought both were around 2.2 acres, something like that.
Is there any estimation of how far back from the edge of the road to the back of what I call the yard? Is there any way to estimate?
I mean, I could get online and measure it. Did we do that to scale? Yeah, we did that to scale. So you got a scale there above the north there, so that's 200 feet. So, I mean, you're talking 300 to 400 feet if you go from the road to the area beyond the maintained yard.
And we do not plan to put any signage or anything like that. If this goes through, there won't be any signage or anything like that. We don't be inconspicuous as possible. It won't be like a big sign for the house. It won't be anything. No.
So there's been a motion on the floor for the adoption of the special use permit at this juncture with the stipulations that the health department needs to inspect and sign off on the existing system or repairs to. VDOT giving an entrance permit or sign off on the existing entrance or to make recommendations. And then the maximum occupancy not to exceed what is set forth by the septic requirement by the health department. Is there a second to that motion, or is there an amendment where anybody wanted to require privacy laws?
I think that's the most there. Privacy.
Okay. How much are you thinking?
Those, what, say, 5-foot townhouse, 50-foot townhouse.
300 foot? what about privacy fence along, just on the house portion? Because the front yard is basically kind of wooded and sheltered. What about privacy fence from the yard? The front yard's very small, and from what I remember. But what about so far in the front yard to the, so far in the back, said that there's a fence, a current, between there and the Rackless and there and the.
Yes, right.
Would 100 foot on either side, would that encompass most of that?
I would agree on the sides. It don't necessarily need to be in the front or in the back. Going on the sides,
Do you think 100 foot on either side would be?
whatever, from the sides of the house. It don't have to go all the way down in front of the yard, I don't think.
About 100 feet centered on the house.
100 feet center on the house, I agree with that.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion now to accept the special use permit with the following restrictions. The health department must inspect and sign off on the existing system and any repairs needed. VDOT must sign off on the existing entrance or create an entrance permit that is up to specs. Maximum occupancy is not to exceed the health department's regulations on the two septics that are in the house. And lastly, 100 foot of privacy fence to be erected on the side of the house, centered on the house, on each side. So that motion's been made. There's a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous, 7-0. With that, we will close the planning commission portion. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to
Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
All right, so you've heard the recommendation. That will be for the board of supervisors at their next meeting, and they will vote on that. Thank you all.